Welcome to Penelope's Workshop. My name's Jim Gary. This channel is about the things I do in my shop, including restoration of a 25-year-old motorhome, my old British sports cars, tools I use, and projects I do. I release videos every Friday and sometimes on Tuesdays. If you're interested in previous videos, please look for links in the description below. So this past week I've been sorting out the new master cylinder and hydro booster for my year 2000 Workhorse based motorhome. This video is about all the things I had to do to get it right. I'll install them back into the motorhome in an upcoming video. Just as a disclaimer, I'm a biologist, not a mechanic, and I'm showing you what I did, not what you should do. If you plan to take on a similar project, please be sure to consult with professional mechanics. If you're interested, there are links to my other videos in the description below. Please like and subscribe. Now, let's get on with the video. This is my original master cylinder and hydro boost, and this is just the linkage that goes to the brake. The way these go together is the master cylinder has this piece that sticks out. It's about 0.6 inches or so. And inside there's a little hole for a plunger from the hydro boost to plunge in to push the piston in the master cylinder. Then when you look at the end of the hydro boost, there's a hole. And in the hole there's that plunger we were talking about. And that plunger, it wiggles around, it can move a little bit side to side, but not very much. If you put the master cylinder on, it connects with these two bolts. And it's just a loose fit. It's where this aluminum piece goes in, it doesn't fit real tightly. There's probably a 1/16 of an inch play there. So no liquid goes in between these two because the master cylinder has just brake fluid in it and the hydro boost runs off power steering fluid. So there's no connection fluid-wise from this end to this end at all. So I thought it'd be really simple. Okay, I can buy a new hydro boost because I think this one's leaking, and I'm just not sure about this thing, so I thought, well, I'll get a new master cylinder too because I don't want to have to go into this again. It's a lot of work to get to. When you put these together, they don't quite fit exactly perfectly flush unless you put probably 20 pounds worth of pressure on it, then they go together. So there's a little bit of preload. So I thought, well, that's great. I just need to order a new hydro boost, just transfer this stuff over to the new hydro boost. And I could also order a new master cylinder. Why not? I'm going to all this trouble. So I started ordering stuff. And here's the kicker about that. So this is the original one. And when I looked up what to replace this with, remember this is old, it's Workhorse. So Workhorse was sold off by GM. They sold it to Workhorse, the whole chassis manufacturing business and box trucks, over to Workhorse back in 1999, I believe it was. They started making their, I think, the same parts, but now they have Workhorse numbers, part numbers. So it gets more complicated because Workhorse stopped really supporting the Workhorse chassis and stopped building them in 2008. So we're quite a few years down the road from there. All said, I ended up ordering 2 master cylinders, and all of them were wrong. One was too big to fit in the hydro boost at all and had a much taller tank. While the other one might have worked, but it was a very different design, which made me nervous. Finally, I was talking to Tony, the tech support at brakeperformance.com, and he did a lot of research, and he found one that was identical to my original one. And he went out of his way to get it for me, so that was nice. It turns out there's lots of variables that matter, especially in my year 2000 of the Workhorse chassis. You could have all disc brakes, or you could have front disc brakes with rear drum brakes. You could have independent front suspension versus a solid axle in the front. You could have dually wheels or not. So turns out the correct one from brakeperformance.com for my Workhorse is MC66027. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. So this is my dry fitted assembly of the new master cylinder, the new hydro boost attached to the old linkage. I had to manufacture a few parts for this. The first thing was on the original hydro boost, the hole here that connects through this bolt right here, this diameter was a little bit smaller than the diameter on the replacement booster. The replacement booster is a little bit different, and I'll go into that, but I had to manufacture a little sleeve to fit over the bolt so it'd fit through there nicely. The second thing I had to manufacture was a spacer right here between the master cylinder and the hydroboost. When I looked at how the master cylinder fit into the original hydroboost, there was a little bit of a gap unless you pushed on it kind of hard. It was about a 20 thou gap. So I made a spacer to fit in there. It's kind of like a gasket. And again, you'll see that. And thirdly, the hydroboost has a bigger diameter across where the master cylinder fits into it than the master cylinder. So the master cylinder is smaller where it protrudes. Here's the old master cylinder, so it's identical to the new one, but I had to make a sleeve that would fit around here because I just wanted a nice snug fit into where it fits into the hydroboost. So you're going to see me kind of work on those three things. I'm going to make a spacer here. I'm going to make a sleeve to go around here so it'll fit nicely into the hydroboost boost. And then I'm going to make another sleeve so that the bolt here will fit nicely into the linkage. I realize there are simpler ways to do this, but I just wanted to do it on my lathe. This is my stock. It's 2-inch stock. I'm going to face this off to get rid of this piece here. And what we're going to do is we're going to narrow this outside diameter from 2 inches down to 1.822 inches because that'll fit just inside the hydroboost. So I'm going to run it about 300, 400 RPM. So I'll do it manually at first. And I'll take about 50 thou each time. It's 1.822. I'm going to take a titch more off. It's 1.816. So that's close enough, I think. Getting ready to drill out the inside. So what I have to do is drill a hole, which is already started from a previous project. Drill that, and it's going to go in about 1 inch. The width I'm going to use is 0.6 inches. And I've marked about 1 inch on the drill. So if I get that mark on the drill all the way in, that'll be the widest part beyond where I have to cut it off. So I'm going to drill it, and then I'm going to bore it to the proper inside dimension. I'm going to go pretty slow. It's plenty big. So to put the boring bar in there, I've got to have this tool clamped square to the piece of work. So I'll loosen these bolts a little bit. Make sure it's snug flat up against my work so my hole will come out proper. Then I can tighten up these bolts again. And then I've got my boring bar. Here's the cutting edge, so that's going to go in there, and I'm going to be setting it in the hole and taking it in just a little bit at a time. I'm going to take off 20 thousandths this first pass. So I've been taking 80 thou off. Now we're at 1.488. So I'm going to drop it down to 60. That should have us pretty close. So the master cylinder should fit in here. It doesn't have to be tight, it just has to, yep, perfect. Since we've been boring, that means tool holder's in the right position. I just have to get the right tool on. And I've got my cutting one, which goes on this side. And it's got to be about 0.6 inches. It's not critical. Okay, so I've got a little line I marked there with my Sharpie. So I've got my cutting knife set. Looks like it's exactly right. About 200 or so. So there's the sleeve. So let's go over to the workbench and see how it fits. So here's the ring, the sleeve, here's the hydroboost. Fits nice and snugly into there. So that should be good. And then this will fit in like this. So the whole thing fits, should fit nice and snug together. I'm making a spacer to go here between the hydroboost and the master cylinder. There's just a little bit too much preload necessary for this piston. I've made a template file folder that fits. So I cut that out, and then I traced that onto some sheet metal. I've got sheet steel. And I cut it a little bit just to get it started out of a big chunk of sheet metal I had. So I'm going to be cutting it. So I cut 2 holes here, and it's one size over a 3/8. And I had to ream it out a little bit, but then now it fits over those 2 bolts. So now I'm going to cut the middle out with my hole saw. There she is. So this should fit on there fine. And all I have to do is trim away the waste. So I'm doing the final shaping here, and then I'll have to take it over to the sander to clean all the edges up. So that about does it. I'll clean it up on the sander, make it look prettier. Here's the spacer I made according to my template. So I've got it all set up. It should just slide right on. And that should give me the little space I need so that this piston doesn't push hard into the master cylinder. But we'll get back to that. So the new hole is 0.622. This old sleeve that that's got to fit in there snugly is 0.556. So I'm going to make that. I'm not sure if it's going to be steel or aluminum, but I'll figure that out and come back. And the width of that sleeve needs to be 0.38. So the sleeve is going to go over this sleeve. There it is. So there we go. Just got to get this little bit of steel off. I'll do that on the sander, and then we'll come back and just dry assemble everything on the bench. This has to fit to the original brake linkage. So this is the original hydroboost, and it's exactly the same size as the new one. And I measured this rod here is exactly the same length as the rod on the new one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this off and transfer it to the new one. To do that, I've got to loosen this big nut here. There's a really big nut right in here, and everybody else I've seen do it has just used a chisel and or a punch and loosened it that way. So we'll see how that works. So I'm going to squirt some PB Blaster in there. I'll let that sit for a few minutes, and then I'll come back and whack at this chisel. Oh, it's already coming loose. There it goes. The first thing I'm going to do is take off this cotter pin here. Then I'm going to loosen that nut. Seems to be 14 millimeter. Pretty tight on there. Oh, that bolt's fixed in there. Oh, there we go. There's a plastic washer, well worn. It went right around here. That's good to know. It's green. Looks like it was hand cut, but it was fitting right in here. So I'll put the washer aside so I don't lose it. I had to drive the sleeve on just using a socket, kind of like that. A few tippy taps that went right on, but nice and tight. It's a little bit snug to go through there, but I can tap it in. We've already test fitted that. So now the next thing is going to be to remove this big nut so I can take this plate off. We don't need this plate. We're going to replace it with this plate. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off that circlip. So there's the circlip off. Fair and square. So let's give it a shot. So I got it moving. This is now scrap, and now I just need to fit so I'll tighten that up and then come back and just dry fit everything together. I'm just rounding off these corners. They're pretty sharp and I don't think I'll be able to get the rubber boot over them. The other one had smooth corners. So now I'm just trying to get the rubber boot on. I rounded off those edges so it at least has a chance of getting on there. I'm afraid I'm going to tear the boot, but if that happens, I'll deal with it. It's going. There, yeah, I tore it a little bit. But after I fasten, I'll put a zip tie around here and a zip tie down around the base. So that's good. That means we're pretty much ready to dry fit everything. So this is ready. I'm going to line them up. Got the rubber washer where it was. I believe I can just draw it in. It's not quite all the way on. So with that little bit taken off, let's see how this goes. That moves. So now the next thing is just to tighten this nut. So let's see if we can do that. Tighten up just a little bit more. Oh, now I'm going to have to disconnect it because I got to put the circlip back in, don't I? Okay. So I call that tight. So now, I might be able to get the circlip over it. Yeah, I can. There we go. So the circlip's in. So I'm going to pull this up, the boot up to here. And you see there's a groove right here, so I'm going to put a tie wrap around that. Remember, this doesn't spin, it just sits here and goes in and out. Okay. Now I'm just going to put one right around here. I'm going to put a thinner tie that I think I'll be able to get it tighter. That's nice. Now the last part is to dry fit our master cylinder on. So there's the spacer we made. Here's the sleeve I made for here. The sleeve's going to have to go in first. So I'll Slide the sleeve in there. Just fits in real nice. Then I'll put this on. And then this. And see, that looks like, if you look through there, it's probably about 15 thou gap before I've tightened anything, but I can easily tighten it down. So I think that's about what it was with the original hydroboost. So let's go ahead and put this on, and we've done our mock-up. So there we've got the dry fit of the whole thing together. So here's our linkage. I still have to put a cotter pin in here. I've got the boot back on, and I've got circlip in. And over here I've got the new spacer I put in there. It's in, along with the new sleeve. So everything looks like it fits beautifully. So next step will be to fill everything with hydraulic fluid, at least the master cylinder. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a bench bleed of it or not, but we'll see when we get to that. But that is this part of the project completely done. New master cylinder, new hydroboost, original linkage, so it should all fit. Well, that about wraps it up. Again, if you're interested in other content on my channel, please take a look at the links in the description below. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. Bye.